The Walter F. George School of Law. I graduated from Emory University with bachelor's and master's in political science, and then went on to law school at the University of Georgia School of Law. After practicing for a brief period, I went into legal education full-time, and so have been doing that probably a little over 25 years now. I've been dean for 4 years, and this is my first deanship, but I'm enjoying it a great deal. And have a great passion for legal education, and I think what it can do for our students and our future, both for the profession and for those who are the ultimate users of the profession as well. I got into legal education originally out of a desire to teach, really, and so began my career as a young lawyer, teaching students and getting to know the students, and then at a point in my career became associate dean of a law school, and that brought me into contact with students in a little bit different way, because I was dealing with them around issues of academic challenges, sometimes social and personal challenges, in an advisory role that was a little bit different than I had experienced as a classroom teacher. And that led me to really be thinking about my students' lives in some different ways, including what was happening to them during their 3 years of legal education, the ways in which they were being transformed during those 3 years, and the ways in which legal education was affecting their lives. Not only their lives while they were in law school, but their feelings about their future lives as lawyers, and how they were reacting in terms of their own dreams for the future and their fears for the future and those challenges. And so while I was beginning to learn about that from that perspective, I had the opportunity to be involved in the Carnegie Foundation's study on legal education. That study is a part of a larger study of professional education, which has included a number of different professional school settings. But the Carnegie study took a variety of approaches to really learning about legal education, but one of the things that it did was to ask legal educators around the country to teach a course on some aspect of legal education that interested them. So I elected to teach a course on the development of professional identity, and the notion was that I would ask students enrolled in this course to help me answer some of the questions that had been forming in my mind, and really help me explore what the impact was on our students' lives of the time that they spent in legal education. So I taught a course which was then called the Carnegie Seminar on Legal Education. I had 18 brave third-year law students who agreed to go with me on this journey, and we set out to ask a number of questions about the impact of legal education on students' lives. We did this in a number of ways, through readings of a variety of kinds, articles, essays, not just focused on the law, but focused on a variety of professions, some readings on legal education. Students engaged in their own research, and so some students explored legal education by doing research with their fellow students. Some looked at legal education from a comparative perspective, for example, comparing legal education with the education of teachers or the education of theologians to see what differences there were. We had a web-based discussion board that was very helpful. Students participated in journals and did a number of reflective assignments, reflective writing assignments, both in class and outside of class. And then we ended the semester with a day-and-a-half retreat where we gathered a number of professionals who interacted with the students over that period of time to explore questions that had arisen during the semester. And at the end of that semester, I began to draw some conclusions about what I'd heard from the students. And some of those conclusions were a bit disheartening, which was that many of them felt that they had lost their sense of purpose in law school. Many articulated that they felt they'd lost something of themselves during the time that they had been in law school. But there was also something pretty encouraging that came out of that experiment, and that was that for many of them, they reported that the course itself had had a positive effect, and that sharing those experiences with each other, finding out that their fellow students had experienced the same thing in law school that they had was really quite positive. That interacting with lawyers and other professionals, particularly lawyers and other professionals who were very happy with what they were doing and who were able to articulate the meaning that they found in their own lives as professionals, was very beneficial to students. And that at the end of the semester, many of them had greater hope for what their lives as lawyers were going to be than they had had at the beginning of the semester. So that started me on a journey that continues to this day. I taught that course in one form or another probably 5 or 6 more times, and then began to introduce some of what I'd learned in that course into my larger classes, including a first-year class in civil procedure, upper-level class in evidence, by asking students to do some reflective writing assignments, to share some with each other what they were experiencing. So some of my work did inform the Carnegie Foundation study that has come out, although the study was much larger, of course, than just that particular course. And it certainly informed the way that I view both legal education as a whole and my own role as a legal educator. I guess if I had to sum it up, I would probably say that what happens to students during those 3 years is that they do develop their identities as professionals, and that much of what they learn from law school, often the hidden messages, I think the unintentional messages, unfortunately, are negative about their identities as lawyers, but that there's a lot that we can do in law school to counter that and to actually help them develop healthy whole identities as lawyers. And so that's something that has changed the way that I view legal education and my role. And I think it probably did lead to my becoming a dean, both my desire to be a dean and to the fact that I'm fortunate to be at a law school now that I think embraces that view of legal education and has been innovative about doing some things with the curriculum and with the environment that help our students develop a positive identity for their future lives as lawyers. I think that much of it is about the unintentional messages that we send in law school. For example, law school tends to be a very competitive environment. Students are taught very early when they arrive at law school that there are certain prizes that they're after in law school. Those tend to be grades, and that grades lead to the right sorts of jobs, law review membership, those kinds of opportunities. And that unfortunately, because we define the prizes often in a way that excludes the majority of law students, we've set them up for failure. And so I think that's the traditional paradigm of legal education that we've got to counter. And one of the things that we do at Mercer, I think, is create an environment that is not as competitive as some other environments, where we try to define success more broadly than just grades. Students are certainly not immune to the pressure of grades, but where we do try to define success more broadly, where there is a supportive environment and a lot of personal interaction between the faculty, staff, and students outside of the classroom, in addition to the in-classroom contact. But one of the things that I'm particularly proud of is an innovative course that was started 5 years ago by one of our faculty members called The Legal Profession. It's a required course that's offered in the second semester of the first year of law school. And it is a course that's offered in addition to the normal kind of required upper level course in lawyers' ethics. The first year course is intended to explore these broader issues around the lawyer's identity, what it means to be a lawyer. It explores the attorney-client relationship. It talks about challenges and becoming the kind of lawyer you want to be. It focuses on how to integrate your own personal values and goals with the norms and values and demands of being a lawyer. And so the idea is to get students to explore those issues from the beginning of their legal education, so that what they learn there and what they think about there can carry through into the second and third years of legal education as well. And then that message gets reinforced in a number of the upper level courses, including both more traditional kinds of courses, evidence, criminal procedure, constitutional law, those kinds of courses, but also in their opportunities for clinical placements or practicum placements where they're working with clients and actually seeing those challenges